Hey guys, Nathan Masters here with Brick System Brothers. I'm going to do a little review video on this Space Needle set. This is not a Lego set, this is a different brand called Mini Building Blocks as far as I can tell. And I was sent this as a Christmas present from a relative in the Seattle area. So Space Needle, it is actually a smaller brick size than a Lego, and it's got a diagram on here. It's helpful, shows Lego brick is not quite a 1-to-1 ratio, where the walls are 10 millimeters by 8 millimeter base, and these nano bricks, or micro size is what it's called, are 1-to-1 blocks. So it's 4 by 4 millimeters. So even though the Space Needle is actually quite a few blocks tall, the blocks themselves are a lot smaller. So the dimensions are going to be about 10 inches tall. So it'd be cool to do like a side-by-side building this with the Lego style and try to copy the techniques, and then kind of compare size differences and what pieces are available for building this. But I'll go ahead and throw this together and then we'll check out the completed model. Alright guys, I've got the Space Needle all wrapped up. Couple things right off the bat I wanted to note is a really large amount of extra pieces are included with these mini building blocks, and I think it's just because them being a lot smaller, it might tend to lose more of those, so they're going to put in extras for you. Also, the way they were packaged was kind of interesting. I saw that this 2x6 clear blue plate actually was bagged separately, even though the same piece was also included in some of the larger bags as well. So kind of curious, maybe something going on at the factory there, but yeah, so quite a few extra pieces with this. Duplicates of some where we've got, you know, this 2x6 black brick. There's like 4 or 5 extra of those. I did end up having to make this central section a couple pieces taller than it was saying in the instructions, just to accommodate everything. And then the other thing is, if you haven't noticed already, these legs aren't quite attached, and you know, after 10 minutes of fiddling with it, trying to get all those connections made, it just wasn't working out. So definitely not standard connections like we're used to with the Lego pieces, where everything is in the system. This is just a little bit more finicky. Some of the plates and studs not really having a good place to connect, where we do have some tubes in the bottom of the bricks, but then on like the tiles and some of our 1x pieces, it's just going to be slide, where the studs just kind of can slip along the length of the brick. So that does hamper construction a little bit, but the end result turned out okay. I think it is definitely the pieces here to complete the model, true to what we see on the box in that regard. We've even got the details down at the bottom with our trees and our pedestrians and some cars and stoplights here, so those are kind of nice to have those. I'd say the most interesting part of this build was the wrapping technique used for this observation deck right here, and then kind of up underneath in the bottom we've got the spires spreading out with some inverted slopes up at the top. But definitely needs a little more patience and concentration than Lego pieces. So the box says 7+. I'm gonna say you're probably gonna be older than that as well, just to have the concentration to build these pretty small pieces. And then Josh was kind of pointing out that I didn't really see a brick separator anywhere in here, but then I think that's what this is supposed to be. This is included. Kind of looks like an escalator, but however, there's not really a good way to get the tiles off of the base plate, so I ended up having to use a knife a few times to just pry those back out. But in the end, we do have a pretty nice looking model, and this market for just the Space Needle is kind of open. I'm not sure if Lego has done an architecture skyline set with the Space Needle included, but that would be in a pretty small scale even for Lego pieces. So the full-size Space Needle model is definitely not on shelves right now as a Lego product, so that's kind of where this comes in. These mini building blocks are quite a bit different, so have different expectations for these. I'm not sure if they're injection molded or 3D printed, or, you know, machining where you have additive or subtractive manufacturing going in there, and different ways to make the same pieces. But overall, it is a good display piece. I wouldn't recommend it being much of a play piece just because of how some of this is pretty fragile. Even these connections, not really being able to make those work completely. So good thing to build and put up on a shelf or a desk, and especially if you live in the Seattle area, or, you know, you're a fan of the Space Needle and architecture, that kind of thing. So yeah, not a bad product.